which recognises Manchester's under-the-radar technology startups, and they're going to be having a chat to some of those startups just now. And if anyone can keep to time, Chris can keep to time, I know that. So welcome up to the stage.
Can you hear me okay? Back. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear a signal? Yeah, my name's Chris. Oh, blimey, that's a signal. My name's Chris. I'm the editor of Tech Blast and also BusinessCloud. What happens when me and John Symcox get together, there's always noise and fights as well. We have to keep a respectful sort of distance between each other. So these 4 businesses have all been included on our Manchester Tech 2.0. We're going to hear from them in a second. John, I'm going to have to stand over here. You know, this is almost getting embarrassing. John, just explain the background to the list first and foremost.
Right, okay. I've missed that, John.
Startups 2.0 is a new initiative that we're launching under our Tech Blast brand. And the idea is to showcase those companies that are under the radar, so they may be bootstrapped, they may be pre-revenue, they may be already in the market, but they're not VC-backed. So yeah, just shining a light on those companies.
Yeah, we started off with Greater Manchester. The plan is we're going to take it global, aren't we? What's the plan after Manchester?
Newcastle, Birmingham, Leeds, Sheffield. So yeah, we're going to launch these in UK cities this year and next year.
And these companies we're about to hear from, with one exception, I would argue, you know, which is quite well known. You know, a lot of people in the room might not have heard of them, might they?
That's right, yeah. So like I said, they may be pre-revenue, but they're at the prototype stage, but they've got a great idea. They're looking to get in the market, and they're looking to meet people and build relationships.
Okay, this is the big moment. This is the big reveal. This is when we crack the bottle of champagne and everyone's excited. All the details, incidentally, can be found in this brochure.
Need to get them to go
25 companies. So take it away, John. Tell us who's on the list.
Okay. So the first 5 companies are Amisys Group, Accession Q, Dapdip Ltd, Whitell, and Collctiv. We have EasyHR. We have Flight Patrol.
Chris, sorry to interrupt you, Jonathan. Can I ask Chris, can you go to the microphone because the people at home can't hear you?
Can't hear me?
Yeah.
What a shame. Can you hear me now? So all my jokes have just completely flatlined. Okay, that'll explain it. That's a relief. I was starting to think I wasn't funny. Thanks very much for that. Go on, rattle through these names.
EasyHR, Flight Patrol, Fashion, GigPig, who you've heard about on Trailblazing Tech, and Digital Connect. We've got HACE, which is Data Changing Child Labour, In-House Health, Inevitable, Locular Limited, and Mapped. I should say actually that Eleanor from HACE is actually on stage. We've got Pet Trust UK, Felix in the blue suit. We've got Mr. Investor, Nanograft, Ping, and Playtime Learning. And Sam Marshall here from Snippet Mirrors is on there. Then we've got So Squared, Splace, Vulse, and Whistle HQ.
So John is available for voiceover work. If anybody wants to hear that voice, he is a Barnsley fan. Put your hands together for John Symcox. Thanks very much, John.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me okay now? Can you hear me better? Or is that better? Okay, the second one. Okay, what it means is I'm going to have to keep a respectful distance from the panel, which, to be honest, I've wanted to do all my life, but I've been too polite to say so. So, we've got 4 fantastic speakers. We've got Felix Robertson, the co-founder of Pet Trust UK, Amy Whitell, the co-founder of Collctiv, Sam Marshall, the MD of Snippet Mirrors, and Eleanor Harry, the CEO of HACE. I'm going to start off, if I may, by coming to Felix Robertson, the co-founder of Pet Trust UK. And not just me, but everyone in the room will be thinking to themselves, Felix Robinson, isn't that a boy's name? Now, there's quite an interesting story behind that, Felix. How did you come to be called Felix?
Yeah, so I was 21. I'd come to Manchester, decided to take a year out. Nobody knew who I was, but everyone called me the Smiler, and I was nicknamed Felix the Cat. And after 6 months, I decided to open a phone shop on Deansgate. I didn't even have a bank account, I just did it. And I was getting checks in the name of Felix Robinson, and I couldn't cash them. Okay. So I changed it by default.
See. Thanks, Felix. We're not going to talk about your business because you can't really improve on that. But, okay, we will, because I'm contractually obliged to ask you a few questions. Pet Trust UK, the name, the clues in the name. Just tell us what Pet Trust UK does.
It's a platform to make buying animals online safer.
Okay. Now, as somebody who unfortunately has got 4 cats in my house, not mine, my daughters have got them, We've had some terrible experiences with buying animals online as well. We're not the only one. 37% increase in number of scams online as well. What problem are you trying to fix there, Felix?
So currently on all the platforms, you can't verify a buyer or a seller. You can't check the credibility of a breeder, and there's no way to validate a dog's health certificate. And they're all being forced right now. And we've got inherent diseases, dogs dying after 6 months, people being scammed, people's dogs being stolen, and it needs to stop.
Okay, quick show of hands. How many people bought a pet during COVID? Okay, not as many as I thought, but the problem is, of course, that once you've picked that dog or that cat that you like online and you meet it for the first time, you almost certainly will buy that cat. The problem is, of course, you don't know what health issues that cat or dog may have.
Anybody that's going to buy an animal is 95% emotion, and they don't even think about asking all the right questions. And so I'm on a panel with DEFRA and all the other pet selling platforms, and my question to them is that we should be the voice of the customer, and we should put all these security issues in place, but they're not. And I think they're all waiting for the next person to do it, so I'm just ignoring them, and I'm going ahead doing it myself.
Okay. You know, if this was like Love Island, everyone would be like punching the air right now. Felix, you're the audience's favourite right now. When does the tech platform go live?
27th of August. We're at a dog show in Coventry, and we're going to do a soft launch there with 100 breeders who are going to trial the product and just see where it takes us.
Do you see yourself, Felix, as a tech entrepreneur?
Absolutely.
You do? Yeah. And what's been your toughest lessons today, your toughest learning?
Meeting Rob Bowler.
It's a quiet
joke. I met Rob at an event, and we just hit it off, and he offered to help us. And he came and sat with me and my son, who's the CTO, and he was impressed by everything, but he said, this is not an MVP, this is all singing, dancing. You're going to have to turn it all off, and I didn't want to. Yeah. And it was a kind of understanding, learning. That was my biggest bit.
It's called tough love. It's called tough love, and it's, and they're the people to respect. Thanks very much for that, Felix. You've been the best speaker we've had so far on this panel. Amy Whitell, I use that joke a lot. I'm not going to apologise. It normally works better than that. Amy Whitell, the co-founder of Collctiv. Collctiv was founded in September 2019 by you and your co-founder, Pete Casson. More established than the other 3 businesses. You've got, been around for a lot longer. What problem are you fixing, Amy, first and foremost?
So we're fixing that problem for everybody out here in this room who is the mug in every group of friends or family or colleagues who can't help but always organise everybody else. This is me. I'm sure it's at least 1 in 10 of everyone sat here. And if it is you, then you are the person that everybody here owes money to, and they've all told you they're going to get you a pint, but have they ever got you a pint? Do you even want the pint? No. You want the money back? So we make it really easy for you to collect money from your friends, family, colleagues, in less than 5 seconds, no matter who they bank with or what they pay with. So you can stop getting mugged off.
So it can be a baby party, it could be a hen party, it could be a stag do, it could be a sporting event, and there's one person who's trying to collect all the money off everybody afterwards, and they've always left out of pocket. You were that person, and you were that frustrated by it, you set up a business called Collctiv. Okay, that was in 2019. How much money's been transacted through that platform since, and how many users have you got worldwide?
So we've now done just over $40 million worth of group payments from over
$40 million have been transacted through Collctiv.
Transacted. Yeah. 1.3 million transactions from 660,000 users. We've taken payments in over 140 countries in over 80 currencies, and we're live in both the US and the UK.
We heard from Felix earlier, and Felix isn't afraid to be different, and nor are you. You've just come back from the New York Accelerator, haven't you, where we did it at the back end of last year over Christmas and New Year. Why did you go to New York for and not do a tech accelerator in London, which would have made more sense?
Chris, it would absolutely have made more sense, not least of which because I've got a family that live in the UK. But London rejected us twice, so I thought, screw you, London, I'm going to New York, which is arguably a better tech scene anyway.
How is the US tech sector different to the UK sector? And in terms of the attitude of the investors and the VCs, what did you find was different?
Well, I was there for about 3 or 4 months. I think the biggest difference is the first time I saw a room full of suits was when the British delegation came over for New York FinTech Week. And I thought I'd walked into the wrong place, but I was in the British consulate, and I was like, oh crap, I'm wearing my Lego trainers again. So the first thing was the suits. The second thing was just the kind of people you might bump into over there. So a few blocks down from where we were working, was a guy that I met who became a mentor. And he was the director of engineering at Uber Eats. So he built Uber Eats out from 0 to 30 billion in sales. And he was like, oh, take a look at your product backlog. When a guy like that offers to look at your backlog, you're like, you do anything that guy says, because he knows how to scale a consumer product. So yeah, caliber of people, the friendliness, openness of people.
You've got 16 staff, your Manchester headquarters, you've got 16 staff in Manchester, you've got 2 in the US as well. The irony is, of course, is that you've effectively gone over to the US to create a business with IP and jobs that you'll end up creating in Manchester, but you've done that in the US. You've raised 1.2 million, I think, from angel investors at the moment. I did a story recently about Whitell, a wonderful, business, great concept, but unfortunately they called in administrators. They were doing 8.4 million revenue last year, and they had losses of 159 million US. And suddenly the investors, after Silicon Valley Bank and such alike, have taken flight because they want to see profitability. You always said to me that you treat any money that you raise like it's your own. You don't burn cash, do you?
No, so straight up, I'm from Liverpool, so always been brought up in a working class household and completely not ashamed to say that. So I was brought up knowing the value of money. I worked from the age of 14. So whether it's my money or somebody else's money, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to make sure I'm spending it wisely, I'm testing it, and I understand what return I'm getting for the spend on that money. But yes, I've raised about 1.4 million from angel investors. Not one of these so-called family and friends rounds, because they don't have family and friends with 1.4 million. But I've been very lucky to get introduced to people in London with money and raised from angels so far.
You've always been completely authentic. I remember you doing a piece with me when you spoke about ADHD, and you said that you wouldn't have been successful but for the fact you've got not only, but without the ADHD. That's almost made you the person that you are. How important is it in a tech scene to be authentic?
Oh, I think it's completely. I think it's obviously important in any sector to be authentic and true to yourself. But I think in tech, where we're building the future, neurodiversity has a massive part to play. Where it's in the mainstream, where it's like feared or not known how to integrate people with neurodiversity into a company. But my argument is always, if you're building the future, how can you build the future if the only way you see the world and that you're happy with the world is the way that things are presently? So people with neurodiversity will see things differently. They'll be very often difficult to work with, but they'll be very creative, or depending on obviously what neurodiversity that they are blessed and cursed with. So yeah, without ADHD, I would have definitely been able to get a job. I probably would have, done a proper career path. I would have had 2.4 children and a white picket fence, and I would have been loving my life.
Okay, and what's the vision for Collctiv? How big do you think you'll get?
So in 5 years' time, we will be powering every single fun thing that everybody in this room, this country, and the US does. So anytime that you go out with your friends, anytime that you play sport with people, any festival you go to, any holiday you book as a group, will be powered by Collctiv.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you for that, Amy. We're going to come to Sam Marshall. They're not clapping me, Amy. They're clapping you, and quite rightly so. I think you really are. You're somebody that everybody looks up to as well, and you're just real and authentic, and so many people aren't. Just before I come to Sam Marshall, the MD of Snippet Mirrors, just like to introduce on the far table Scarlett. Scarlett, can you just stand up for a second? Scarlett's on work experience, and I want to make it an experience. So just say hello, Scarlett. Thank you. That's all. Thanks very much. You won't forget that, Scarlett. So, people looking at Sam Marshall, the MD of Snippet Mirrors, and they're thinking to themselves, there's a well-groomed individual. Look at that hair. It's fantastic. The beard's well-groomed as well. But it comes back to your business. So your business is called Snippet Mirrors, and you really are shaking up the world of barbers as well. Just explain what it is that you're doing.
So Snippet sell entirely bespoke smart mirrors. It's a little bit of a visual product, so we do actually have a stall outside, but I'll do my best to explain what we do. So we've got a patent pending feature which differentiates us from any other smart mirror that allows us to deliver crystal clear image quality, which is a real issue with smart mirrors in general, and it's actually a reason why you don't see more smart mirrors in commercial environments in particular. High ambient light really spoils the picture. So we've solved that issue And then we realised that they had to be bespoke because each barber station is different. They each have a different aesthetic requirements. So then we realised it's going to get expensive. So then we lent on my experience as a digital marketer, and we added a second screen. Now the second screen delivers what's called peripheral advertising. This is a fairly new concept, but I think it's something that we're going to see more and more over the next couple of years. There's actually a Polish company, they'll give you a free TV if you have a top screen for entertainment, 50-inch plasma, and then below that there's a screen for banner ads, extremely similar to what we're doing, only in the home. So I think you're going to see more and more of this as the years go on, and as I say, leaning on my experience in digital marketing, we realised that that small screen could be really valuable for delivering a high rate of exposure ads to a captive audience.
Sam, I'm going to come in there because there'll be a few blokes in the room just like me. You know, they go to the barbers when when they're told to go, or when they can't see out their eyes anymore and they're doing this. I need to go myself. And you sit there and you might have a 3-day-old copy of a newspaper that's been left to read. All the hairs, is swept up into a pile.
Yeah.
It's not the best experience, is it? It's you pay your tenner and you walk out, and then you never make an appointment. You just go when you need to go when your hair's. What you're doing, you're almost sort of adding a bit of entertainment value into going to the barbers. So when you're waiting, there's a big screen, so you can watch TV, you can play Nintendo, you can do whatever you want. You've got adverts that appear. From a barber's perspective, they get revenue from those adverts. Mm-hmm. You get revenue from those adverts as well. And also, you're looking at AI, so that when you walk towards the screen, I'm thinking conspiracy world or conspiracy theory or Minority Report here, they can almost recognise you from your previous haircut. Is that the way it works? Is this...
So there is a feature that we're building out that's similar to that. So I've not brought much in the way of visual props, but I have brought a little pocket camera. So one of the things that's unique about the experience is, just to clarify what you said there, Chris, the mirror is the mirror that you sit in front of, and the screens are around chest height, just to give you context of where the screens are positioned. So you'll sit down in the chair, and unlike your regular haircut experience, your consultation with your barber, where you say, usual, 4 on top, 1 on the sides, whatever you say, will be replaced by a digital video from your previous haircut. So that then allows the barber to not rely on memory when it comes to remembering 150 different styles, makes the process much more seamless for them. And the way that we get those videos is, rather than using the mirror to display the back of the style at the end of the haircut, you use one of these little cameras. Little camera like that, it's live in front of you on the screen, and then they're able to store that video. So it is a totally unique experience. That's from the moment you sit down in the chair, and then you're able to watch music videos, live sport, or some of our barbers also plug PlayStations into them as well. So it does create a completely novel experience. You're right, Chris.
It feels to me like the barbers is the one tech-free place in the world where you can go, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
Just final question in terms of, a double header really. In terms of these mirrors, they cost between about 1,800 to 2.5 grand.
Mm-hmm.
How much traction are you getting so far? Has there been a lot of interest from barbers?
So we've only been selling the mirrors for about 2 weeks, and we've spent 3 years perfecting the product. So about 8 months ago, we worked with some of the industry's best barbers, barbers like HD Cuts, who is Karen Benzema's barber, for example, and also Rum Barber, who are based in Glasgow. They work with all the clipper companies on product development. So we really, really focused on getting the user experience perfect ahead of launch, and that has been super valuable. That culminated with a focus group that we hosted over at Bonded Warehouse, where we're on a tech accelerator, and that was a really unique experience for the barbers as well, because they were able to get together. High-level people from the industry don't usually get together and talk about their craft like that. So that was a really unique experience for them, and we got a lot of value. We spent the subsequent 3 months iterating based on that feedback, and then we literally launched 2 weeks ago, Chris. We just sold our first set of 3 mirrors, and we've got a very, very large deal
So you basically
early conversations right now. Yeah.
You spend a lot of time looking at mirrors.
I spend a lot of time looking at mirrors.
Absolutely. I thought we could tell. Actually, just a little fact about Sam. Sam lives in Warrington and cycles to Manchester. How hard is that? Right, okay, our final speaker is Eleanor Harry. One of the great things and one of the great things and the challenges when you do events like this is you go from talking about mirrors in barbers to talking about tackling child labour. But that's a ubiquitous thing about tech. It covers all walks of life as well. I always like to get an unusual fact about each of our speakers as well, because that's what people tend to remember as well. Eleanor, you've got a bunny rabbit, haven't you? What's the name of your bunny rabbit?
He is called Poppy.
Yeah. That's a male rabbit called Poppy.
Well, you know.
Exactly. Eleanor, we're going to move from Poppy to talking about child labour now, which is a difficult link, but just talk about the business, because a lot of people, they read about child labour, they don't really sort of understand it. You've produced this child labour index, which will basically mean that if you were going to invest or you were going to join a company and you want to know what their child labour record is like, you can do it. Just explain how it works.
Yeah, so we use data and AI to help companies with supply chains understand the risk of child labour, so where it is, why it happens, and how they can optimise their existing spend to have greater positive impact on communities. And the other product is the Child Labour Index, so companies are scored from 3 different algorithms, 3 different types of AI, and essentially it generates a quantitative metric on child labour performance at a company and group level, and it is the only metric that exists in the entire world to measure that. So.
I probably should have asked this question first, for those people who don't know. How big is the problem of child labour? Can you put a number on it?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. So there is 160 million children in child labour today, which equates to 1 in 10 children globally. And 70% of that child labour is in agriculture, so at the bottom of the supply chain, where we can't see. Every single commodity in every single country you can possibly think of, upstream, downstream, and supply chains has probably had some sort of child labour contributing to it. So just as a light one on a Friday afternoon.
No,
yeah.
But one of the things that struck me is one of the big hotspots for child labour is the US. How big is the problem in the US?
It's difficult to quantify how big problems are because, as I said, child labour is usually in bottom tiers of the supply chain where companies tend not to have the visibility. But recently the US have been stung on many different occasions on child labour, so much so that the Biden administration have put a task force in on how to tackle child labour within the US. There's no minimum work age for children in agriculture in the US, which means you can see 5, 4, 3-year-olds working on farms. But equally, in November last year, Hyundai were caught with children working overnight in their factories producing bumpers and lights in the US. And I can probably roll off hundreds of other different examples, but these are big global corporations within high-income countries that either can't see or don't know about child labour, but it absolutely exists.
No, and that's the thing, you know, I mean, it could completely reputationally damage a business if they don't get their policies right, and they're only as strong as their weakest link, you know. So if there's child labour at the beginning of their supply chain, that's down to them. The data and the tech business that you've created, you could create data sets on anything, couldn't you? Diversity, you know, is that the plan for the business?
Yeah, so the Child Labour Index is our subject matter expertise. It's a completely unserved market, i.e. when was the last time we ever thought about child labour? How can we measure company performance on it? It doesn't really exist. But the way that we build the technology is with knowledge graph algorithms, and it's a kind of newish part of AI, which means we can have a big data platform that we can pull out lots of different types of products. So the Child Labour Index, where we can kind of penetrate through lots of different other ESG areas, certainly in S, so health and safety at work, human trafficking, etc. So we're built for scale, but child labour is definitely our subject matter expertise.
It's an interesting statistic, which is only 19% of people who work in tech are female. You know, we've got a panel of 4 speakers, and we've got 3 females, which is certainly the right way to go. But you're in the process of raising £375,000 at the moment. I think you've got £220,000 agreed already. What's your experience of raising investment as a female tech entrepreneur?
Just as a side note, I was crying as I was walking down Dean to get on the way because that number has actually gone up to 260, so we've managed to close the first 2 tranches of our funding round, so it's a long time coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from a Thanks. We've raised from angels who have been absolutely fantastic in understanding the vision of the business and how we want to grow and scale. VCs is really tough, certainly for female founders. So it's a tough world. It's really tough, and I think that there's lots of room to grow. And I think that is the control of capital. If the control of capital always sits with men, there seems to be an issue in who's being invested in. So I think that there's a wider kind of, we need to shift in lots of different ways, not just female founders, but also investors as well, and kind of other various different things. So, by the way, it's such a pleasure to sit on a tech panel with two other women. It never happens, so it's incredible.
No, I think the statistics are that, a male raising investment is 6 times more likely to be successful than a female.
Yeah.
And yet, statistically, businesses with females on the board are more successful than all male boards as well. And it's just really, really important we talk about it as well. And actually, we talk about it in this sort of language. But a lot of the decision makers are men.
Yes, there's a study done in the US on VC-controlled money, and it was 89% of that VC-controlled money was controlled by men, so managed by men. And I think that says everything. When it comes, I can roll off stats forever, but when it comes to VC funding in technology in Europe and the UK, only 1% of that money goes to all female founding teams versus 91% that goes into all male founding teams. And that's not because there's only 1% of female founders, it's just because people like to invest in what they know. And, how we change the world is not by what we know, it's by creating something new and doing something different and taking that risk. And, technology is here to solve the biggest complex social environmental challenges that we have. So it is about taking that risk. And I think that women, seem risky, but that's the way that we need to push forward.
And it's really important to say that is not an anti-men comment.
No, God, no.
That is a factual comment,
Yep.
and we need to do better. We absolutely have to do better as well. Everyone in the room as well. Just final comment to you, if I may. What does it mean to be included on the Manchester Startup 2.0? It's the inaugural list. Yeah, absolutely. A comment really from everybody. Just in one line, what does it mean to be included in that list? Because is it a validation? How do you see it in one line? I'll start with you, if I may, and then I'll come to Amy second, and then I'll move down the room.
I think it's incredible to be recognised as kind of underrepresented or founders, again, ones that aren't necessarily backed by VC. So it's an incredible honour to be, you're doing the right thing, you're pushing forward and doing the right thing. So,
the reason I'm asking the question for is that when we write this story up, which will appear on Tech Blast, it will say, it is a real honour, the best thing that ever happened to me and Poppy.
Oh, so, can I rephrase then?
Amy, why is it important to get included in lists like Manchester Startup 2.0?
I think partly because Manchester often is under the radar, because I think I'm obviously talking in sweeping generalisations here, but my experience of being a northerner is that we just hustle and we get on with things, and we just build and we work and we make stuff happen. And often the press and the attention and the media is in London. So actually stuff like this is really helpful in terms of raising the profile of all of the amazing stuff. Industry was born in the north and will continue to be born in the north.
Okay, Sam, what would you say? That great line. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely echo that from Amy mostly. I think, to be included in, particularly in the north, is really, really important to me. And I think that, there's a lot of great founders who can make real changes in the world, and it's going on right here. It's not going on down south. And I think I think we do have an issue with access to capital up north occasionally. So lists like this to raise our profile is really, really good.
Final comment to Felix. Keep it to one line only, Felix, because we're running out of time. We've run out of time.
I don't know, I'm working with my own son, so it's really difficult. We've been doing something for 2 years under the radar, and to think that somebody has recognised what we're doing for the pet industry is making a game changer, and we're going to disrupt it. It means a lot to us that we're doing the right thing and got people backing us in Manchester.
Time prevents me asking all these questions, but we have had one question in. Somebody said, Chris, do you co-host the Northern Spin podcast, available on Spotify, Apple and all good platforms every Monday, talking about politics across the north? I'm embarrassed to mention it, but the answer is yes. Thanks very much. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Shameless plug there, Christopher. But we'll let you off. Aren't we lucky to have such amazing talent here developing out of Manchester? And just to celebrate them just one last time, we've put together a little video of all of those Manchester Startups 2.0. Great, thank you. So we have just one final panel to go for the rest of the day, and then obviously we will be announcing our Trailblazing Tech winner shortly after that. The polls have now closed, or at least certainly will be in the next moment or two, so I hope that you have all made your votes. Okay, so I would now like to introduce our next panel, which is the Fiery Founders. They're going to tell you all the stories, all the lessons that they've learned over the years of building their own businesses. But whilst they make their way up to the stage,